down, counting out, smiling through the taste of blood in my own mouth. I got bruises and broken bones, but they don't know I ain't in this ring alone. I'm a fighter, no one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet, don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. I'm a fighter. I get back up, that's what I do. I didn't soldier on this far just to lose. So take your shot, is that all you got? I'm a fighter, no one can say that I'm a running hider. I was born to be a do-or-dyer, a make-it-righter. Don't throw that towel just yet, don't cash in that last bet, 'cause I hit harder when I'm tired. Yeah, I'm a fighter. Oh, no one can keep me down. They didn't know, but they know now. That I'm a fighter. No one can say that I'm a running hider. Don't cash in that last bet, don't throw that towel just yet. I'm a fighter.
I hope you'll keep fighting with me. On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. We've got a lot going on. I've got a huge show today, and I wanted to start it off on the correct foot. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of people coming out that are maybe against certain people, maybe against those of us that are trying to create content and do our best out here with everyone else. You know, we're all not going to nail it every single time, and we're going to say things that piss off people from time to time. But you know what? Ultimately, I think you've got to look at the hearts of many of us and try to assess from there. You know, who's on which side and who's doing what. We're all trying. We're all fighting. We're all going to continue to do exactly that. All right. Just a good reminder right off the bat. I think this fits perfectly. The lines of life. I want to start from the right. People to help. There's one person in line, one person that wants to go through that door, one person that's willing to go through that door to help. Then there's to encourage. There's 3 people waiting in that line. You know, a few people definitely want to encourage, about 3 times more than helpers. To get involved, well, there's, about 6 people on that line. Once again, about twice as many as to encourage, 6 times as many willing to help. To gossip, well, we got 9 probably there. And then, of course, to criticize, double that. You know, it's much easier to criticize. It's easy to gossip. It's harder to get involved. It's very hard to try to encourage. It's not difficult. It's just most of us aren't wired to do that. Most of us aren't wired by life to do that. And then to actually help. Very few are wired to do that. And I hope many of you continue to be inspired to help. Many of you continue to be inspired to be encouraging. And of course, many to get involved. I've had a wonderful experience getting to know some people. And we are going to be doing a trip. It seems that the numbers have dwindled quite a bit, which I kind of figured they would, but I guess first it surprised me how many were saying they were going to go, and now it's about where I thought it was going to be. But we are going to be out in Houston. I'm going to be out in Houston. There is going to be a reasonably small group of us. We're going to be at a place called 2 A Days on July 4th, doing the music show live from 4 to 6 p.m. If you are going to be there, please send an email to onthefringearoundthenation@gmail.com. Right now, the number of RSVPs has gone from around 50 to about 15. I am going to say that that's kind of how this plays out. This will likely be one of the, if not the last, public thing I do. It's just a lot of expense for 15 people. No offense. I look forward to meeting the 15 of you that will be out there. It's going to be exciting. We're going to have fun. I'll have some prizes to give away. But hopefully we can get a bunch more of you guys out there. It would be a lot of fun, and I look forward to meeting as many of you as are willing to show up. So again, July 4th, I know it's not the best day to do this. Hindsight, should have done it differently. Whatever. Living and learning all sorts of crap on this. But on the fringe, aroundthenation@gmail.com. It is not my email, so please don't email it hoping to talk to me. You will not get in touch with me. It's someone that's very sweet and kind to help me with this. And they will not forward emails, so don't ask them to. Go to onthefringearoundthenation@gmail.com. Let us know how many are planning on showing up on July 4th at Two-A-Days in Houston on Pearland Avenue. And it would very much help. That said, getting involved, trying to help, you get the point. All right, here we go. J.D. Vance, just being damn funny. Check it out.
Trust me. In Washington, D.C., they have this thing where I think it means we're number one in Washington, D.C., but all the pink-haired people throw up this sign, and I think, that means we're number one, right? I choose to take that as that symbol in Washington. But all kidding aside, trust me.
I just love the fact that we got people that can actually tell jokes, RFK Jr. clashes with Democrat in-house hearing over vaccines. Said you've accepted $2 million from pharma, from one of these guys fighting this whole thing, Congressman Pallone. And Pallone was just, hammering down on Kennedy, saying he'd fired all the people on the 17-person staff and all this, right? The 17 panel, blah, 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 right? But eventually he followed up with this final comment. I thought it was pretty awesome. He goes, Congressman Pallone, 15 years ago, you and I met, Kennedy said. You were, at that time, a champion for people who had suffered injuries from vaccines. You were very adamant about it. You were the leading member of Congress on that issue. Since then, you've accepted $2 million from pharmaceutical companies and contribution, more than any other member of this committee. And your enthusiasm for supporting the old ACIP committee, which was completely rife and pervasive with pharmaceutical conflicts, seems to be an outcome of these contributions. And that's what Kennedy said, is he let go of the members of the ACIP committee that were in bed with Big Pharma. Those are the people he let go, and calling Congressman Pallone out for the exact same thing after Pallone was hassling him about it. Andrew Cuomo, he loses the New York City mayor primary, the mayoral primary. Not a surprise, I guess. I certainly think he's a pile of crap. This Zohran Mamdani, I don't think is much better. Very, very super progressive dude. Eric Adams, of course, rips the socialist Zohran Mamdani, calling him a snake oil salesman after the shocking New York City Dem mayoral primary victory. It's kind of a weird word, right? Mayoral. Either way. But yeah, Eric Adams didn't have any. I wish I was hoping I would have the audio of him saying it, but I didn't go digging for it. Needless to say, he's pissed. And again, how these things are playing out is not a big surprise to anyone. Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan prosecutor who took on Trump, he won the Democratic primary. Again, not a surprise. I don't think these people are necessarily going to win. They just won the primary. It means they're going to be representing the Democrat Party. But this was a funny little point that Jordan Sather was good enough to find. Said people in New York started Googling what socialism was after the polls closed. Like, people were like, what's socialism? And so that number went up significantly. And many are suggesting that it sounds like they might very well have put this Mamdani guy in there against Cuomo, knowing that they were the only two candidates that really had a heck of a chance, right? The other two people weren't even I don't even think they had double digits. But Cuomo was down. I think he lost by about 12 points, which was funny because both of the polls we shared yesterday, neither of them were even close to right. I think the one poll had Mamdani up by 2 points, and he seemed to have won by 12. And the other one had Cuomo up by 12 points, which was about 24 points wrong, right? So it's just funny how that all played out. Whatever the case is, we will have a crazy election. 2 states in this union, for sure, need to pull their heads out of their collective asses. I happen to live in one of those states over here on the West Coast, California. Yay! And then the East Coast, New York. Got a bunch of you all with your heads up your own asses over there, too. Hopefully we're waking up. It sounds like we are. I've got some information to suggest in both cases But I do think people are starting to wake up, and this is even sort of a good example of the awakening process happening. Sometimes things have to get so bad that you finally can look in the mirror and go, crap, this is our making. We'll see, hopefully. House is going to probe China's AI misuse after failed Trump impeachment effort. I want to really spend a second on this. This is one of the things that people are bitching about with the big beautiful bill, or whatever, the BBB. A lot of people have a problem with the fact that there is information in there, or there's a part in there that says that the states have no right to try to restrict AI. I'm going to tell you guys, I know AI freaks out everybody. I've seen this coming from 100 miles away, and I knew it was going to come. And again, I don't necessarily share the whole Terminator thing. I don't think it's going to play out like that. In fact, I would be willing to assure you it won't. And here's why. Because we're not going to let the states limit what we can do with AI. Let me explain why. Because any limitations that we impose upon ourselves, much like carbon credits and the greenhouse gases and all that stuff, right? We think we're doing this wonderful idea. We're going to save humanity. And then you've got China and India and everyone else under the sun that's not going to follow the same rules. So rules for us that hold us back, that tie our hands behind our back, that don't allow us to be free and to do the most affordable form of energy, just to use some of the things they've been going after. And then you allow another country to run roughshod over you. And that's what would happen with AI. You see, if we let communist states, California, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, just to name a few, if we let these communist states put restrictions on what AI can and cannot do, how AI can and cannot be used, then China will run past us so fast we'll never ever catch up, and we will be beholden to China, which is what the communist states want. They want to support communism. They want us to become communists. They want China in charge of us. These governors of these communist states are being paid for by China. So, no, we don't want states telling the federal government what it can do with AI when it is truly, literally, a weapon of war. It can be. It can also be a weapon of peace. You see, if they're using their AI against us as a weapon of war, but our weapon of peace is even more thorough than theirs, well, we'll be able to thwart most of their stuff because our AI will be able to get out in front of it beforehand. So we don't want states to have a say in this. I'm sorry. And I know some of you may not agree with that. But if you have states, and it's going to be the communist states, folks, if you have states saying what we can and can't do with our energy, with our AI, with our speech, with any of these things, we've already seen what direction they'll go. And they will destroy us. And that is their plan. China is almost not our biggest enemy. We are. It's internal. They're already behind our lines. China reportedly on the verge of 100 DeepSeek-like breakthroughs amid aspirations for full domination. Yes, they're continuing to push the AI innovation. A tsunami of stuff. Of course, we've got crazy stuff going on over in this side of things, too. We also know Facebook is desperately trying to steal the best of the best when it comes to AI from the military, OpenAI, and some of the other sources. And it's not going to happen. I hope. Anyways, we'll see. But again, the communists amongst us are trying to take our power away from us. AI is going to happen. We either have it in strength and protect ourselves with it, or someone else has it in strength and destroys us with it. Those are kind of the options. We will do good in the end. And I know Trump is going to do us right. But we can't keep listening to some of the retards that are out there. We just can't. I'm sorry. This is something where we've got to get out of our the Terminator, Skynet. We just got to get out of that thinking right now. We do. Because either A, that's totally going to happen, and oh well. I mean, it's nothing we can do about it at this point. It's going to happen. So we've told you guys, prepare. I don't think that's going to be the case. Don't even think it's going to be close to the case. And in fact, I still would suggest if we focus our thoughts in the right direction, it won't matter, and AI will be here to assist us, which is what it should be. TWC.health/OTF. TWC is the wellness company. They're here to assist you. A lot of things going on. We've obviously got this fear of this new fly, right? The screw fly or whatever they're calling it. Strange name. Again, good reminder for the Contagion emergency kit. Make sure you've got the Contagion kit. The Contagion kit's got the antiviral stuff. It's got your ivermectins, it's got your hydroxychloroquine, it's got another antiviral, it's got the Z-Pack in there, and it's also got an upper respiratory, like the anti-asthma medications. You get 5 vials of that and the nebulizer. Powerful kit. You definitely don't want to be like leaving that up to chance. Also, another really powerful thing that's happening right now is, well, they've got appetite control. Dang, they got all sorts of good stuff here. What else we got here from the best sellers? Ivermectin. Oh, it's over here in shop. Yeah, the Recharge is really good too. And of course, the ivermectin mebendazole. This is the parasite cleanse. You guys know what parasites are. If you haven't, you should do some research. Parasites are being tied into all sorts of sicknesses that many of us experience. Many, even some going into the realms of cancer. Do some research into it, especially if you're somebody that's maybe got some of these concerns in your life. This parasitic cleanse, it's a 90-day process. This is a very strong cleanse. 25 milligrams of ivermectin, 250 milligrams of mebendazole. This is, boom, it's 1 pill a day, and you're hitting it hard. And I've been doing a very similar version of this, and I'm telling you, I am noticing huge differences, just huge differences. And the way I felt, it even finally got me to the point where I cut way back on some of the bad habits I had, and I'm still holding on to that. I started drinking a little bit, but I've been really chill with it, and it's been fine. It's been nice, in fact. And I'm actually enjoying it. I'm sleeping better. A whole lot of things are happening. This is powerful, and it also helps get rid of, again, some of the bad things that happen in our bodies because of parasites. Go to twc.health/OTF. That's twc.health/OTF. They've got a great appetite suppressant process here. Unlocks appetite control. It boosts metabolism, and it curbs cravings. This is all the things that you want to kind of help you out when you're moving through that process. And also with the case of Recharge, it's got the methylene blue, NAD, and PQQ. These are both things that make a huge difference. That methylene blue enhances cognition, energy, and cellular resistance. NAD plus restores mitochondrial function and mental clarity, kind of working good together. And PQQ supports cellular renewal, boosts energy, and enhances what? Oh yeah, memory. Does all those things. Go to twc.health/OTF. That's twc.health/OTF. If you hit the shop tab, you'll see everything. You hit the best sellers, you'll see some of the things. But you definitely want to check out the emergency kits. There's medical kits that have a lot of antibiotics, which you should also have in your arsenal. Again, any of these things, there's so many good products, and they've got excellent supplements. The Wellness Company is a great company. You've got actual doctors behind it, and in many cases, some of these things require prescriptions, and they take care of that as well. Go to twc.health/OTF. That's twc.health/OTF. This is what I consider to be something that kind of breaks the illusion. The International Atomic Energy Agency, they are now no longer working with Iran. Iran has kicked them out. Their parliament voted overwhelmingly on Wednesday to suspend cooperation with them amid a backlash over the United Nations nuclear watchdog's refusal to condemn Israel and U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear infrastructure. This decision followed a 12-day conflict, yada, yada. I think the IAEA is actually probably not as good a group as many have claimed it to be. And so under this illusion, we've now got people getting away from it. And I think that ultimately this is us pulling out of a lot of these deep state agencies, these ones that essentially were spies within their own right, weren't necessarily helping the bigger picture. I don't know. Again, they backed out of it. I think this is one of those things where this was an easy way for them to do the right thing, do a good thing, and hurt the deep state. I think that's what's going on. I got a bunch of video talking about, one, the leak of information. Everyone from Trump, Pete Hegseth, Steve Witkoff, all talking about this nonsense that came out. Now, we know a leak occurred, and they're misrepresenting it, and of course, they're running with it in many ways, just like you would expect them to. But we are, in fact, we're taking back things, guys. And here's Steve Witkoff talking to what's her face on Ingram on Fox News.
It goes without saying that leaking that type of information, whatever the information, whatever side it comes out on, is outrageous. It's treasonous. So it ought to be investigated, and whoever did it, whoever's responsible for it, should be held accountable. It could hurt lives in the future. Leaking is a completely unacceptable thing. But let me give you, because I've read all the damage assessment reports from not just our government, but from other governments. And I'm not going to get into anything that's top secret, but let me tell you for sure what happened here. There are three distinct facilities in Iran that we were concerned with. Isfahan, which is a conversion facility. You cannot weaponize unless you have what's called the conversion process at the beginning of enrichment, and then a conversion process to metallicize the material at the end of enrichment. That conversion facility, which as far as we know is the only facility in Iran that can do this, was completely destroyed at Esfahan. It's above ground. It was hit with a 30,000-pound bunker buster, and it could not survive that hit. So they have no conversion opportunity, and that means they cannot weaponize, even if they've enriched to 90%. Then there are two other nuclear reactors in Natanz, one above ground and one below ground. The below ground one we know we eviscerated, and the above ground one, which had been hit by the Israelis and had been substantially damaged, we put another bomb on top of it just to make sure that it was eviscerated, and we know for a fact it was. Fordo is the last enrichment reactor that was operating there, and we put 12 bunker buster bombs on Fordo. There's no doubt that it breached the canopy. There's no doubt that it was well within reach of the depth that these bunker buster bombs go to, and there's no doubt that it was obliterated. So the reporting out there that in some ways suggests that we did not achieve the objective is just completely preposterous.
Exactly. Here we've got Hegseth and Trump talking about CNN and just the way the leak occurred and how crappy CNN is.
Severe and obliterated. So this is a political motive here.
Is there a leak investigation?
Of course, we're doing a leak investigation with the FBI right now because this information is for internal purposes, battle damage assessments, and CNN and others are trying to spin it to make the president look bad when this was an overwhelming success.
We had a tremendous success, and this is the New York Times. I call it the failing New York Times. It's going to hell. And CNN, which, as you know, very few people are watching. And you would think they'd do the opposite. You would think they'd want to say, this was an unbelievable success. And the thing that hurts me is it's really demeaning to the pilots and the people that put that whole thing together, the generals. That was a perfect operation.
So again, many just crap. I mean, crap coming out. Well, and they are doing the investigation, which I think I had that story pulled up, and so we'll skip it when we get there. But there is an investigation into the leak. Supposedly there's 3 sources, but I think the numbers they give for the number of sources that said this is true are probably never accurate. Most likely it's one source, and it's probably one of the last leakers that are out there. Here's some more questions that Trump got.
First of all, on the stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility, we can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt. But now we know where it is, and if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no way Iran comes to the table if somehow nothing had happened. This was complete and total obliteration. They're in bad shape. They are way behind today compared to where they were just 7 days ago because of what the president did.
Yeah, again, just incredible how this was spun. And again, just because something was leaked doesn't mean, because they don't show you the actual documents or the actual statements it said. They read top secret classified information and then leaked it in such a way as to cast doubt or speak poorly. And it might have been just one little phrase they put in there, of this or of that, and we'll find out soon. And they run with the small little part. It's just what they do. It's more of the same.
Just some advice, because you come under fire a lot. Our moms are standing for things that often the media attacks them on. We'd love to get some advice from you about running for office.
Yeah, so I would say don't do it.
No, run for office. We want you to run for office.
I do say this, though. It is nastier to run as a Republican. It is. Now, I'm the ultimate, they suffer from a thing called TDS. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
TDS, it's a horrible, horrible terminal disease. It destroys the mind. It destroys the mind before the body, but the body eventually goes. TDS is Trump derangement syndrome. They have it at levels. They can't even stand their life. They can't stand anything. And, part of the reason is I won an election which everybody said couldn't be won.
And yet he did exactly that. Trump admin refutes this scoop by the 51 intelligence officials reporter on Iran strikes. Now, one of the things we actually found out, too. So top Trump officials have denied a CNN report claiming U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities failed to destroy core components. Notably, the report was penned by Natasha Bertrand, who is also a key figure in the promotion of the bogus Steele dossier and the infamous letter from 51 intelligence agencies saying the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. She's the one who penned this story that CNN has been running with. So again, this is who we're dealing with. Here is Marco Rubio talking on Face the Nation. I think does a pretty good job shooting down CBS News' attempts to smear things.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I see that question being asked on the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
they have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build a
point
weapon.
in U.S. intelligence assessments. You know that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
The political decision had not been
I know that better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
you
I'm
know,
asking you whether the order was
about.
given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons. Because they can quickly make it 90. They have all the elements. They have. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but
so
that's a question. That's a question. That's a question of intent. And you know, in the intelligence assessment, that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
But that's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used. Here's what the whole world knows. Forget about intelligence. What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond anything you need for a civil nuclear program. So why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon.
Right.
Why are you developing ICBMs? Why do you have 8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles that you continue to develop? Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms, they have the enrichment capability, they have the highly enriched uranium that is stored.
Yes.
That's all we need to see.
Right. Well, and
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all
yes, and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing that here. And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence that there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon, and that's more than enough.
And that's the thing. They keep trying to spin this down the wrong path. Is they didn't have to make some sort of claim. We're going to do it. It doesn't need to. Your actions demonstrate that you're doing it. And by the way, I got to be correct yesterday. I think somebody was saying 75% was needed for weapons, and I was saying I thought it was 90. It is 90. I was correct about that. I thought so because I saw a graph way back when and found it fascinating. 60 to 90 is a very easy step. You would think it's harder, but it's actually, in fact, not. Going from the 5% to 60% is much, much more difficult than doing 60 to 90. Believe it or not. That might be hard to believe for some, but it truly is the case. Iran's foreign minister admits nuclear sites were badly damaged. They even admitted we damaged the sites very badly. So all these people saying otherwise are incorrect. All the people saying this is going to start World War III were incorrect. All the people saying that this would get us into a forever war are incorrect. All the people that went against Trump that used to be with him were wrong. Pentagon launches probe into the strike. We heard about that. Now, this is, interestingly, one of the places where they think that the uranium was potentially moved. The 60% uranium was potentially moved. I say potentially because it might not have. We'll see how that plays out. Let's see if I can get this to play, for that matter. Yeah, this isn't what I wanted it to be, but yeah. So this site is down in here. This was the Natanz uranium enrichment facility over here to the west of it, sorry. Yeah. my brain works backwards when it comes to east and west. It's kind of funny. But over here to the west of it, we've got these two tunnels. And, well, assuming this is based off north, south, east, west, whatever. But these two tunnels over here, they're saying this is Pickaxe Mountain. They think this might be where they trucked the stuff into. Now, Trump does have a thought about this. He doesn't think they did that. In fact, we're going to play this right now where he discusses why he doesn't think they did this. Or wait, does this do that? We'll find out. I might be wrong. No, this isn't it. Down here he says, so President Trump on Wednesday maintained that nuclear materials were not moved prior to the U.S. strikes on Iranian facilities despite an internal preliminary assessment that indicated otherwise. Now, we did see map or a satellite footage of a bunch of trucks lined up there. So, don't know, all right? But what Trump does say, and so it makes for a good argument, he says, we're just the opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move. He says, if you knew about that material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called, many people, they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy. It's very, very hard to move, and they were way down. You know, they're 30 stories down. They're literally 30 to 35 stories down in the ground. So Trump is saying, I don't think they moved it. I don't think they were able to. Let's see. He added, they didn't see it all. All they can do is take a guess. He says, if you take a look at the picture, if you take a look at how it's all black, if you know the fire and brimstone and it's all underground because it's granite and it's all underground, you don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. They hit hard. We do not have information of the whereabouts of this material, so this is why I'm asking. We are making an assumption, which is not speculative or pure speculation, because Iran officially told me we are going to be taking protective measures, which may or may not include moving around the material. This is what Grossi had said on Fox. He added, so it's quite obvious you were asking me about it, that there is a question there. Where is this? So this is the way to ascertain that is to allow the inspection activity to resume as soon as possible, and I think it will be to the benefit of all, which they've kicked out the IAEA, so it's not going to happen. And again, I still think that might be a benefit in the big picture. Democrats even joined the Republicans in trying to kill the impeachment resolution against Trump. They went ahead and passed, or tried to, well, they had the vote, and the vote was 216 Republicans are saying, no, this ain't happening, let's kick it to the curb, essentially, yay, that we're going to a resolution, how are they phrasing this? It's on a motion to table, right? So on motion to table, 216 Republicans, 4 no votes, probably Massey, and a couple of them numbnuts are in there. But 216 said, yeah, let's table it. 128 Democrats even said, yeah, let's table it. Nancy Pelosi was even on board with that. Of course, you've got Ocasio-Cortez and all the progressive ones are part of the 79, which, I don't know, might give us all an idea of how many of those progressives are actually in the House, and maybe it's not quite as bad, and maybe this 128 are somewhat rational-minded individuals. I don't want to put too much power there because they don't deserve it. Tulsi Gabbard, and again, a lot of what people kept saying, Tulsi didn't agree with what Trump was saying, and he says, I don't care what she said. This does go back to that March assessment, which was months ago, 4 almost 4 months ago. So Gabbard has actually installed a Trump ally and a deep state critic to this analysis hub. Former career intelligence official Nicholas Cass is stepping in as acting chair of the NIC, which has recently been accused of politicization by the Democrats and Republicans. So the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has tapped an experienced former spy and vocal supporter of Donald Trump to run an analytical hub that has been buffeted in recent months by charges of politicization from both parties, according to 3 people with knowledge of the move, right? So we'll see, but that's likely true. Israel tried to turn Iranian generals against the Ayatollah just before the bombs fell. That failed. Iran's IRGC Quds Force leader shows up in Tehran streets after reports of his death. Supposedly Israel killed this dude, but it looks like they might not have. In fact, this is him right here. When I keep looking at the picture above and him, I mean, I even tried comparing the ears and stuff. I'm pretty sure that's the dude. It could be a fake guy. That's what a lot of people will probably want to say, right? Especially Israel. He's just a look-alike. I don't know. His ears look the same. His mouth looks the same. The wrinkles look the same. Looks like the same dude. Don't know. But once again, doesn't sound like Israel accomplished quite what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, 7 Israeli soldiers lost their lives. They had an armored vehicle that was traveling through the Gaza area. One of the Hamas people went out and stuck some form of explosive on the outside of this armored vehicle, and it was detonated and apparently killed all 7 inside. So it's very, very sad. Again, I'm wondering how much of that, too, is for Israel to be able to continue the fight with Iran, though that's not going to be allowed. And this is them trying to burn through Gaza and take care of that stuff, which is fine. Israel, you need to do that. You need to clean up your area and get your stuff under control, but it's not going to be a reason to go on and attack Iran by any stretch of the imagination. Not going to be allowed, at least not at this point. Now, here's where some of the fun stuff starts to happen. We've got Candace Owens says she's been tipped off that social media influencers are being paid to produce anti-Candace Owens and anti-Tucker Carlson content. She's offering $10,000 bounty for information. Now, I will say, Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens have both been very vocal against Trump. So, yeah, that's why I mentioned things. I haven't gotten paid a dime to try to say anything bad about either of them. I wouldn't accept money to say anything bad about Tucker or Candace. I don't really, frankly, care about either of them that much. But I think it's kind of funny. And then what I go by, well, is Candace Owens' own comments. Conservative commentator Candace Owens said Tuesday she's embarrassed after campaigning for President Trump during the 2024 presidential election cycle. Quote, "He's been a chronic disappointment, and I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen, and it is happening." You know, the war that lasted all but one flight, lasted 37 hours, the endless war that Trump got us into, the one that Candace Owens is so critical of. And then she's wondering why people are speaking poorly of her. Maybe because you keep saying shit against Trump? Candace, you've done it a bunch of times. Tucker's done it a few times. You've done it far more times, gone against the MAGA movement because of your crazy ideals. So much less respect for Candace. I mean, granted, she's significantly more famous than I am. Steve Bannon talking about this riff he's got going on with Mark Levin. Kind of funny, but he doesn't say a whole lot here. But they've got a little bit of a fight going on. It's kind of cool.
Boy, Tel Aviv Levin is he's big mad. Oh, he's big mad because he didn't as a spokesperson, as a spokesmodel for a foreign nation. They didn't get what they want, President Trump, and you saw why Bibi can't be trusted, and Netanyahu can't be trusted.
So this was in regards to Mark Levin posting, "Steve Bannon, a disgusting fraud. Nobody gives a shit about you, Bannon. A confessed and convicted fraudster has to say. You're a liar. You cheated how many people? At bottom, you're certified disgusting fraud. And it shows every time you open your big fat mouth. Oh, wow, he's got a whole bunch there. Every time you open your big mouth. You opposed our great military and commander-in-chief at a time when they acted to destroy Iran's nukes. 80% of Americans backed the operation. You and your tiny cabal of lunatics gave aid and comfort to the enemy. Now you prance around like you support our country rather than apologize for your outrageous disloyalty. And you stabbed the president in the back in the middle of battles despite the fact he pardoned your sorry ass for God knows what. You're a contemptible POS. You always will be a certified, convicted, confessed fraud who ripped off patriotic Americans. There's some truth to that. I don't like Mark Levin right now either, but whatever. He is a hardcore pro-Israel, obviously. He's obviously hardcore killing the Ayatollah, which would definitely make things worse. It's unquestionable. Marjorie Taylor Greene gets involved. This is this whole long religious thing, just really trying to explain Jesus to a Jew, which is sort of funny just in and of itself, but whatever. And then she does put this one part down here where she says that Kennedy was killed because he opposed Israel's nuclear program. Where does she get that from? Seriously, we're having a hard time proving that they've been trying to make one. They've been saying for years and years that they're days away from having one. This is obviously much like the weapons of mass destruction they used to get us into the Iraq War. Much the same here. We are aware of the fact that they had 60%, it seems, which you don't need for a nuclear program. I believe for a nuclear program, it's something like 5% if you want to use it in reactors, which is what we're cool with. 5%. Going from 5% to 60 is a big deal. Going from 60 to 90 is a small deal. And that's what everybody keeps saying. Whether or not they were planning on doing it or not, it's irrelevant. They were this close to having it, whatever that means. Did we start a full-blown war with them? No. So for all the arguments that everyone keeps making, that's not how this played out. Trump does not want us in forever wars. That's not how he rolls. He had very specific requirements of this battle, attack, whatever, and he followed through. He accomplished his goals. We pulled out and then got a ceasefire. So to everybody that was making a big deal about it and going anti-Trump before any of this happened, one, don't trust the plan as much as trust the dude. And two, you were wrong. Try that on for size. A lot of these people are too. It pisses me off, frankly, because people are making all sorts of assumptions. And again, so many people want to be able to proselytize what's going to happen. It cracks me up because they're almost always wrong. Almost always wrong. There's a website where occasionally I find a decent video of someone that I want to watch that's not been republished for the 5th time. That's not from 7 days ago where they're trying to hide when it was made so you'll watch it again. Just insane how some of these sites are. But all of it is so clickbait. All of it's so big intel, huge intel. It's just ridiculous. All the other ones too is martial law's coming. Watch this or the quantum financial system. They somehow try to tie that in there. It's just insane. And the clickbait works. It just works. Whatever the case is. Sean Spicer and what's-his-face Gorka are talking about the clickbait prostitutes. And frankly, this is a big part of the problem with the people out there, especially the MAGA side of things. Those that are truly waking up and truly getting involved and being aware of what's happening, I don't think the clickbait works as well. But if clickbait still works on you, you're definitely not as awake as you think you are. It's your call. I don't care. It's up to you. But again, if you find yourself always going to these emotionally driven headlines, you're not as awake as you think you are.
There's a lot of them there who are like neo-Buchananites, and they use isolationism as an excuse to veil anti-Israeli or at times anti-Semitic views. And you know, we can't have any truck with that. I'm worried that some of them will continue to do that, even though Tucker's apologized. Why? Because they're in it for the clicks. I mean, they are in it for the clicks. They're not MAGA. They're just exploitative grifters. But you know, can I tell you a personal story? So we had this storm here in Virginia at the weekend, and we lost power at the Gawker HQ. So we're waiting for the power company to come, and 2 days later they finally arrive. And it's eventually, you're waiting for the bus for 3 hours, and then 4 of them come. We had 4 bucket trucks, 3 pickup trucks, a drill truck. I mean, everybody arrived at once. And I'm waiting while these hard men, with the insulated gloves, the boots, are climbing up with these live wires. And we start chatting, and they find out what I do for a living. These guys, working class Americans, they get President Trump This was before Saturday. This was just before I went into the sit room on Saturday, and they said, yeah, we hope he drops the big one on them, right? I mean, these are the people who want American force used when necessary without interminable forever wars. I think the president has sent the message, but at the end of the day, it's not up to him, because the clickbait prostitutes who are fake MAGA will continue to do what they do. But the good news is they will be irrelevant, because the real MAGA, like those linemen, like those power workers, the 77 million who get it, they understand peace through strength. And it's not walk softly and carry a big stick now. It's walk softly and deploy that squadron of B2s whenever you want.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard the phrase clickbait prostitute.
Well, I like that. Clickbait prostitute. A clickbait hoe, maybe? No? Okay. Maybe I took it too far. Joe Rogan shutting down Senator Bernie Sanders as he gets off into left field, talking about how two-sided issues are one-sided, and he kind of catches him, and then Bernie's like, well, that was my point. Anyway, it was pretty cool, because Rogan was a big Bernie Sanders fan, and the fact that he's calling him out and keeping him honest was pretty cool.
What it says is, you're a billionaire. You have now the constitutional right, because your money is your freedom of expression, right? So you don't like Bernie Sanders? You can put millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign and express your view about how terrible Bernie Sanders is,
right,
and you can buy that election, right? That's your constitutional right. I think that's probably the worst decision that the Supreme Court has ever made. So what is the result of that decision? The result of that decision, let's take us to where we are today, is that Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here in Austin, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay. I think that's absurd that any one person...
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
They spent a lot of money on Harris as well.
They spent $1.5 billion just
combined
over the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So
yeah,
I'm not here just to say
that.
It's a Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
Okay.
Was it your point? Because it sure didn't feel like that was your point. Now, what's also funny is this idea of, this goes back to the past a bit, where they could, if somebody was putting out a book that was critical of a candidate that was running for office and it was too close to when that candidate was running, they literally would keep them from being able to put that book out at that time because it would affect the election. Now, we know that obviously got changed significantly. FBI wasn't supposed to bust people, but we had that happen exactly before the election, and well under 90 days. They went after Trump. So we know they break their own rules frequently. And what this is meant to do is to keep them, well, to keep us from finding out about the bad politicians of the deep state. And so the deep state won't let people put out critical materials prior, and they'll, make up these crazy rules about how, they can stop that because that could affect the election, and now you're interfering with an election, even though we let China do it and we let other countries do it and whatever. But that's, that's a different story. Again, the deep state. If you go against the deep state interest, oh, no, you're not allowed to do that. But if the deep state is going against your interest, oh, they're very much allowed to do that, aren't they? Now, we've all noticed that, and it's kind of weird how that works. But needless to say, here they're kind of talking about how this played out, and this is Justice Kennedy. I'm not sure which one of the Kennedys he is. I don't recognize him, but one of them.
One of your famous 5-4 decisions is Citizens United,
yes,
in which you upheld the right of corporations to basically make political contributions.
Right.
Any second thoughts about that decision ever?
Again, the decision stands for itself. Of course, all of us are concerned with money in politics. The government of the United States, in that case, argued before the Supreme Court. We're in the court and the podium is down there. The attorney for the government of the United States argued that if there was an upcoming political campaign, I forget maybe 6 weeks, and a book was being published or a movie being produced, and it was critical of a candidate, that you could stop publication. I thought it was unbelievable. This is a First Amendment right. Now, it's true that there's a problem of money in politics, but I think we just have to address it some other way. And notice the press was exempt, so the major newspapers could print what they want, but you couldn't have a book or a movie the other way. Now, the result was, as you know, that money flows into these campaigns, and it seems to me we have to think about it, but that the voters are the ones that if they see money coming in from the campaign for wrong source, there should be disclosure, and they can vote against the candidate if they don't like it.
I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, money does kind of seem to control a lot of things. Again, it's a tool, but how it's used is usually where the problems start to arise. Pam Bondi says the DOJ is on high alert over concerns about Iranian sleeper cells. We've just wanted to keep this kind of on the front burner. She says there's been about 1,000 that have entered our country through Biden's term, and they are working to catch and capture as many of these people as they possibly can. So they're going to continue to do exactly that. California has, in fact, found to be a Title IX violation after the trans athlete uproar, the Education Department says. This ties into the California Interscholastic Federation, or CIF as we know it out here, and the California Department of Education. They were found to be in violation of Title IX, the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights announced on Wednesday. This will affect federal funding. They may try to go to a court and get them to undo that. But ultimately, you're not following the law. Sorry, whatever court does this or says, Trump, you have to give him money, it's probably not going to happen. It will be appealed, and they will be allowed to keep the money from California. California gas tax is set to surge on July 1st. Prices are expected to rise 65 cents a gallon. Again, this is going to be another one of those things that pushes Californians to realize how messed up our government is. They're taxing the living piss out of us, and they're doing it in stupid ways. And we've actually got a cool story where it seems like there's a chance they're going to undo this. I'll believe what I see when I see it, but they are talking about raising it significantly, expecting gas to cost over $6 a gallon here in California. It's just wonderful how they do it. And again, for all the people that are out there, well, everyone's got an electric car out there, right? No, not really. A pretty small percentage of people have electric vehicles. So this is going to drastically affect everyone, shipping, just everything. Can affect everything. So this will be a problem for sure. Now, California's signature climate policies are facing a new foe. Even Democrats in this state are actually starting to say, whoa, 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 whoa. California wants to have its own unique blend of fuel, which makes it borderline impossible to get refineries to refine it. We've had literally refineries have left the state of California because of how unfriendly it is and how ridiculous it is. What the actual senators in this, or senators and House members in this state right now are finally doing is saying, hey, look, why don't we put ourselves more in line with the Western United States? That way we don't have this problem with refineries. That way we're not charging an exorbitant extra amount of money for gas. And that way we're actually not pissing off our constituents nearly as much as you currently are trying to, California. So we'll see if they're able to make any progress on this. The fact that this is starting to become bipartisan gives me some hope. That's cool. Planned Parenthood getting the shaft from the federal funding, so now they're reaching out to all the extraordinarily left-leaning states, California, New York, and probably Massachusetts, and all these wonderful states looking for money in case they actually do get defunded by the federal government. They're already putting their hands out. And here's the thing. I think most of us are going to be like, I don't want my tax money going up or to, we're already in a budget deficit here in California. So what, you're going to make it worse, Gavin Newsom, by giving abortion clinics more money? No, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. There's plenty of people in this state that are maybe pro-choice, but not necessarily like, I'm so pro-choice that I actually want to fund abortions with taxpayer money. No. You want to get an abortion? Go get an abortion. That's your call. That's your problem. You can deal with that when you go stand before your maker, right? Outside of that, I'm not going to control your life, okay? At least it's legal here, and I'm not for it. Fortunately, I've never had to get an abortion in my life, so I lucked out when I was younger, thank God. There's a couple times where I was scared and thought, but abortion wasn't the thought in my mind. It was more like, shit, I just ruined my life more than anything, whatever. But this is one of those things where I don't think taxpayers should have to pay for this. Taxpayers don't want to pay for transgender surgeries. Taxpayers don't want to have to pay for abortions. Taxpayers don't want to have to pay for this nonsense. especially for this teeny tiny percentage of people that want this. Look, you want it. You made choices in your life. This is what you want. All right, pay for it yourself, or get some friends to pay for it, or do a give, send, go, or whatever the hell you got to do to help pay for your thing. That's fine. It shouldn't be through taxes. FBI launches criminal probes into the 3 children's hospitals over sex change surgeries that were supposed to stop and didn't. Boston's Children's Hospital, Children's Hospital of Colorado, and the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Anyone surprised? And who wants to bet all 3 of these either share the same owner or share some sort of weird connection? I would be shocked if that weren't actually the case. Am I surprised that it's Boston, Colorado, and California? Nope. Kind of surprised New York's not in there, to be honest with you, but not surprised at those 3. New York power grid finally stabilizes after rare energy warnings. Hey, New Yorkers, this is what happens when you go all in on the green scam. Right now, you guys are hitting 101 temperatures, or yesterday you were. I don't know what today is. Probably hot as hell still. And you guys can't handle your electric problems. Nor can we here in California. We get to this kind of level, and then all of a sudden we seem to like to start fires everywhere. It's just fantastic how this works. But we've got all these green policies and all these green states that are destroying our ability to live comfortable lives in any way, shape, or form. And when you make people uncomfortable, people generally start to do things differently. Finally, because they're uncomfortable. That is oftentimes what causes a lot of the awakening. So, again, moving in the right direction. We'll see. I want to remind you guys, I haven't talked about these guys in a long time, and I hadn't checked the website in a long time, to be honest with you. And I was actually kind of surprised. They got some really, really cool stuff in there. It looks like I have taken down my link on my screen, but it's called Proud Patriots, and they got a whole lot of really cool stuff. They got like a MAGA watch. They got the bobblehead. They got these Trump dollars. They've got just the Trump bear, which I have behind me. I don't want to try to pull it out because it's behind my compass and some other stuff. But they've got a lot of really, really cool Trump stuff. If you're interested in getting these things, I would highly check it out. I will have it in the description below, and it'll be the top part where I usually have the Goldco thing, so you should see it just right at the top of the description box. Click on that link. You're helping the channel out, of course. I appreciate that. But you've also got an opportunity to get some very cool stuff. There's some really cool stuff in here. So check it out. Golf shirts. They got these cards. Actually, these cards are pretty cool, too. I actually got a bunch of those, the collector cards. So go to Proud Patriots. And essentially, you're going to see it's a proudpatriots.us/78DTMM/6H52ND, right? You're not going to remember that. Just click the link below in the description box, and you'll be able to check out some really great stuff and certainly help the channel out at the same time, which is a win-win for, I think, all of us. Kind of one of the reasons why I don't like donations as much as I like having advertisers, because I feel like you get something out of the deal, I get something out of the deal, and the company that we're advertising for gets something out of the deal. I feel like it's kind of like a win-win-win that way. I don't know. Whatever the case is. Get your effing members in order. LA official calls for Mexican gangs to mobilize against ICE agents. This chick's in big trouble. She is being investigated, to my understanding. She is involved in she's the mayor, I guess. Cynthia Gonzalez is her name. Cudahy? I've never even heard of the city. I live in California. I live probably, 50 miles south of this city. I've never heard of this city before in my life. I've lived in California for a really long time. Never heard of Cudahy. I have no idea. But she basically asked for her gang people to get your effing members in order. And they're assuming that she's saying this, and she was saying this in regards to ICE, to defend their territory from ICE. She's being investigated, which is good. Another mayor potentially getting arrested. Illegal immigrant allegedly aided by Wisconsin judge agrees to a plea deal. This is pretty funny. So Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan, she is going to be going to jail and losing her judgeship, or whatever the hell they call that. And the individual she was protecting has admitted he's here illegally, and has admitted that once he finishes his sentence here, he will be deported, and he has agreed to that. So well done, stupid judge Hannah Dugan. Well done indeed. You gave up your entire career for somebody that's guilty. He admitted he's guilty, and he's going back home. And you gave up everything for what? Seems like a bad idea in hindsight, one would assume. In this case, every single Democrat voted against condemning the violent anti-ICE riots in the Los Angeles riots. I'm not surprised, but at the same time, there was definitely violence that happened. There was definitely assaults on police officers. There's definitely some injuries. There was certainly a bunch of arrests, thank God. But every single Democrat, all 206 of them, voted no. They are not going to say that they're against or they're going to condemn the violence in Los Angeles. Again, these are the people we're dealing with on a regular basis. All sorts of craziness. Everyone gets this wrong. Stephen Miller talking about the, this had to do with the Iraq, nuclear power in the country. What is this? Anyway, I apologize. We'll talk about it after here. I got to the last part. This whole thing, he talks about something totally different. I think he was, anyway, we'll find out. I apologize.
Quickly, we have less than a minute. Your reaction, this court decision is massive, Steve.
Yes, this is an incredible victory, the Supreme Court win. It allows President Trump, as the law has long said, but the courts have blocked, it allows President Trump to send illegal aliens convicted of rape, murder, homicide, assault, battery, crimes against children to any country around the world that is willing to accept them. So whether that be South Sudan, or whether it be Somalia, or whether it be Ethiopia, any country in the world that is willing to accept these monsters, we can get them out of our country and be free of them forever. The only thing I have to share tonight, Sean, in a little bit of breaking news, is that the district court judge in Boston has said he's going to defy the Supreme Court's ruling. So expect fireworks tomorrow when we hold this judge accountable for refusing to obey the Supreme Court.
And supposedly did. It was the court thing. I apologize about forgetting about that. Well, we found out that yesterday, Solicitor General D. John Sauer filed a motion at the Supreme Court addressing Murphy's unprecedented defiance of the court's authority, calling his order untenable. The district court's rulings of last night is a lawless act of defiance that, once again, disrupts sensitive diplomatic relations and slams the brakes on the executive lawful efforts to effectuate third country removals. For over 2 months now, the executive has labored under an injunction that this court yesterday deemed unenforceable. This court should immediately make clear that the district court's enforcement order has no effect and put a swift end to the ongoing irreparable harm to the executive branch and its agents who remain under baseless threat of contempt as they are forced to house dangerous criminal aliens at a military base in the Horn of Africa that now lies on the borders of a regional conflict. Sauer also suggested that the court kick Murphy off the case entirely, writing, "Given the lower court's conduct, this court may consider ordering that the case be reassigned to a different district judge." Now, I don't understand, once the Supreme Court ruled, why would we even care what the district court says? Great, have him call you in. Have him do his worst. It's like you're going against what the Supreme Court said, district judge. Where do you feel like you're above the Supreme Court? You're not. No one's above the law, you keep telling us. So what makes you think you are? Harvard wins an injunction against Trump administration student visa ban. Again, this will be appealed. Another district judge doing their district judgeness. Big decisions remain as Supreme Court's term approaches an end. There are a few cases that are expected to be closed out before they go on their summer break. Birthright citizenship and nationwide injunctions. 3 of these injunctions have targeted Trump's attempt to limit birthright citizenship, which is a major portion of his immigration agenda. While the justices could weigh in on the constitutionality of Trump's order, they will likely focus at this point in litigation on whether judges are exceeding their authority with such orders. That will be helpful. The sex and gender in school libraries. Court's expected to weigh in soon in Mahmoud versus Taylor. This case is about whether schools should be able to require children participation involving storybooks with controversial content about sexuality and gender. Has to do from a religious argument. The Christian and Muslims have come together. Go figure that one, guys, huh? All you guys said, ooh, right? Here's the two coming together in a funny kind of way. But they have sued Montgomery Public School System in Maryland, and they are going back to a Supreme Court case that set the precedent, and it's Wisconsin v. Yoder, 1972, which said parents have a constitutional right to direct the religious upbringing of their children. The schools are saying that by having children read books like this doesn't force it on them, right? And it's like, it kind of does, actually. So, again, the argument that they make is pretty stupid. They're supposedly going to rule on age verification for porn websites. I don't really understand why this is a problem. I don't mean, I don't understand why it's a problem to verify. I know every place where they've done age verification, they've literally stopped allowing porn there. Any kid that's got even a remotely smart friend is going to be like, yeah, just use a VPN and it won't matter. And then so that doesn't stop them from doing anything. They just pretend to be in a different state. But whatever. This, for some reason, is a big deal. I know Texas, Mississippi. I feel like there's a few. France has done something similar to this. So Pornhub's pulled out of all sorts of places, and I'm sure they're behind the lawsuit. Planned Parenthood and state Medicaid funds. This is why Planned Parenthood's already going to states, because they know this is going to get shot down. And Obamacare panel on preventative measures. It's a separate health-related case, focuses on a panel set up under Obamacare, otherwise known as the Affordable Care Act, to recommend preventative care for insurance to cover. The legal issue the Supreme Court is reviewing is less about particular recommendations and more about the structure of the Preventative Services Task Force. A company known as Braidwood Management sued, alleging that the task force's members had to be appointed by the president. They cited a provision of the Constitution known as the Appointment Clause. When the case, which was initiated during the first Trump administration, reached a federal appeals court, Braidwood won on that point. The Supreme Court reviewed the issue after the Biden administration asked it to intervene. The current Trump administration continued the legal defense of the task force. So, again, we'll see what comes from all that. A couple things on the big, beautiful bill. Chris writes, big, beautiful bill, transformative in our trajectory of or on energy. Here's a little bit of that.
Can you talk to us about the energy stuff in the big, beautiful bill? This is the president's whole agenda. This is going to unleash American energy in a way that even bigger than what you guys have been able to do from the administration so far.
100%. The one big, beautiful bill is transformative in our trajectory on energy. I wrote a few years ago about the differing trajectories between the United States and Europe on energy. We didn't have wildly different energy prices 20 years ago. Today, they're just dramatically different. Our economies dramatically diverged in size and in wealth and whatever. But yet, for 4 years, we tried to jump on the European express train to make energy expensive, unreliable, and export our industries, just like Europe had done. This bill is the pivot. It's the reversal of that. You know, we have spent hundreds of billions of dollars to subsidize electricity sources. I don't care where energy comes from. All I care about is secure, reliable, affordable energy from any source that can deliver those conditions. But if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it. And we've spent a lot of money on other dumb things as well, but on subsidizing wind and solar so massively that we keep building more and more of it. Well, at peak demand at PJM, I mentioned after Inauguration Day, wind and solar combined were 2%. So you need our entire legacy grid there and operating to keep people alive when it's cold or cool when the peak heat hits. You need that whole grid then, but now you're going to build a second grid that's just a parasite. When the wind blows, you got to turn this thing down. When the sun shines, you got to turn this thing down. When the sun goes down and the wind dies, you got to turn all this stuff up. So we just drove ourselves to. But if you keep paying businesses to build stuff, they'll do it. And so this bill is to end these subsidies, not just on wind and solar, but a whole bunch of other kind of energy green dreams that when you subsidize something, it should become cheaper. When the government pays for the community center, well, the admission fees are lower. We subsidize electricity sources and we get more expensive electricity. That's the worst possible subsidy. $1 in subsidy and an extra $1 on your electricity bill. So the big, beautiful bill will not only end this stuff or put in a relatively rapid sunset of that, it'll remove a whole bunch of other restrictions and leasing and permitting reform that allow development of whatever energy source. We want to see nuclear get rolling again. Geothermal's coming along in a next generation wave. Oil, gas, coal. We want everything that works economically and betters American lives. This bill unleashes that.
Geothermal is actually a pretty good idea too, by the way. Reasonably green and constantly works. You know, that's one of the things. Nuclear is awesome like that. It's pretty green. Actually, it's fully green. It's dangerous somewhat, but it's green. It releases 0 CO2, and so does the thermal. Thermal is actually a really, really good idea. I'd love to see us pump some money into that. That'd be great, to not have to have nuclear power plants in everyone's backyard unless they can make them like the salt ones that are much, much safer, whatever. Senate parliamentarian is still just going and just cutting pieces out of this Senate bill whole lot of changes. The federal employment retirement system contributions, she didn't like the changes they were putting in. State authorization to conduct border security and immigration enforcement, didn't like that. Measure to limit court contempt powers. Doesn't have anything to do with the budget. I mean, the stuff she's calling out, as much as we're supposed to hate McDonough or however you say it, is you know, she's obviously doing a darn good job screwing with stuff. But I'm also going to say, from the standpoint of the way that the Senate rules work, budget stuff only can be part of this reconciliation. If it strays outside of budget type stuff, then it's not really part of a reconciliation and should require the 60 votes and allowing the I'm drawing a blank on it, but the filibuster to occur. So again, whatever. We're going to get through this. This will eventually get passed. This is just part of the pain of doing it. Language barring non-citizens or permanent residents from receiving SNAP. Again, language. So some of these things can be fixed just by fixing the language. That's fine. They can fix the language because the SNAP is definitely a money thing. Extending the suspension of permanent price support authority. This sought to extend the suspension. What is this? Traditionally been part of the Farm Bill. All right. Whatever. Funding cap on Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Selling off millions of acres of public land. Easing offshore oil and gas project compliance. That's kind of doesn't fit with reconciliation per se. Stuff we need. Don't get me wrong. Forcing the Postal Service to sell electric vehicles. Interesting. Repeal EPA rule limiting air pollution emitted by passenger vehicles. Again, that's not budget per se. I get it to a degree. Again, some of these things, the language can be cleaned up and maybe get them to be allowed. Allowing project developers to bypass judicial environmental reviews. Again, language. Altering the RAINS Act. I don't know what that one actually stands for, but we'll see how things continue to play out. They're supposed to get that passed by the 4th of July, which, we're talking 9 days from now? Well, we'll see. POTUS, this is pretty funny. They asked if he's going to meet with Zelensky. I thought that's pretty damn funny what his response was.
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? They're tough. He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
I like that. She says, how you doing? He's probably going to say some other stuff. Rubio waives possible impact of new Russian sanctions. Basically says, look, right now we're trying to negotiate with Russia, and if we threw a bunch of sanctions on there, that would pretty much shoot ourselves in the foot. So, no, we're not going to do that right now. Thank you very much for playing. Hope or as Trump would say, thank you for your attention to this matter. But yeah, it's not going to happen right this second. Russia's electricity supplies to China have apparently fallen 44%. Many suspect this has a lot to do with the sanctions against Russia. So China's had to back away from that a little bit. This is actually hurting Russia to a large extent. And right now they've got kind of a lot of gas starting to back up in their pipelines. See, pipelines, a lot of times they make these pipelines and they don't ever have them completely full. They're usually, maybe that much full, but there's constantly a movement of liquid going through them. Well, what starts to happen when the other side isn't really taking the gas off, if you will, or gas out of it, that you start to fill those pipes up. And once those pipes completely fill up, there's no place to go with that oil. You can't cap wells, because once you cap a well, it's very painful and expensive to uncap it to begin production. Now, they are talking about putting stuff underground. They're talking about creating more holding containers for it. But they're running into a problem. If any of you guys have ever played video games where you have resources that you have to mine and you've got certain resources and you start getting too many of them and you're like, crap, I can't use these yet, but I certainly don't want to stop collecting them. So then you create more and more places to keep them, and then you just start having crap tons of those, right? They're all over the place. So they're running into a little bit of a problem. This is actually probably affecting the bottom line of Russia, like many, many people in the world right now. So yes, here's more questions that Trump takes on meeting Zelensky later today.
Can you give us any preview of what the two of you might be discussing?
No, well, we'll discuss the obvious. We'll discuss his difficulty. He's got a little difficulty. Zelensky, he's a nice guy. I mean, I'm going to meet him today. I don't know. I assume we're going to be discussing Ukraine.
Yes.
And it seems like the most likely.
Is there any restart talks there or anything that you might do?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, I've spoken to Putin a lot, and he actually was very nice. He volunteered help on, as you know, on Iran. I said, no, I don't need help on Iran. I need help on Russia. Okay? I said, do me a favor. Help us on Russia, not on Iran. But he was very nice. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. I think progress is being made. I think great progress is being made on Gaza. I think because of this attack that we made, I think we're going to have some very good news. I was talking to Steve Witkoff, who, by the way, is terrific, and who knows more about this subject than anybody, the subject of what we were just talking about. He was on last night with Jesse and with Laura and with Sean. And boy, Susie, he has a great take on it. He just explains it so easily. He's really very knowledgeable. But he did tell me that Gaza is very close.
Should we go in? Yeah, Gaza is very close. So, well, we'll see. Obviously, Gaza had some issues. Big blue to full increase. It's kind of funny with this particular graph. So it's showing the real blue-collar wage growth. Now, during the Biden administration, wage growth went negative 1.7, or for all of you guys, negative 17. It's 1.7, but still. Oddly, when Trump and his numbers right now are positive 1.7 or 17. Isn't that interesting? We undid their 17 with our 17. That's very strange, huh? Fed is powerful. That's the problem. Federal Reserve, one of the complaints in this article, and this does a good job talking about this. I love Zero Hedge, especially for financial stuff. They're just a very good rag, I guess we'll call them, for lack of a better term, news site. But they are talking about how every time the Fed, every time Jerome Powell, every time he farts, everybody's like, oh, what did it smell like? What do you have for dinner? Oh my God, and the market reacts, right? Like, it's just insanity. And so that's part of the problem is we do all this ridiculous, looking at everything they do. What was he thinking? And what was he saying? And oh my God. And then the markets react accordingly. It's stupid. It really is stupid. It should be straightforward. The system should make sense. It doesn't for a reason. Now, again, I don't trust the system. You guys know that. We've got Federal Reserve Chief. We don't need migration to grow the economy. He's right. There's two ways the economy tends to grow, either more workers or higher productivity. Now, we are seeing enhancements in our productivity because AI and many things like that. That's actually going to be able to take the same number of workers and get more production out of it, thusly making more money, higher GDP with just as many workers. It's something that needs to happen in this nation for sure. Our efficiency sucks in many cases, so this would be fantastic. Typical American way is just throw more money at it, but that's not really a good way, and we've seen that with education. We throw more money at education than any other country in the world. Our education is the worst out of any country in the world, pretty much, at least any of the ones that matter. So we need to do things differently, that's for sure. Now, Powell's pushing back on Trump, saying tariffs are uncertainty, and so because of that, he's thinking of holding the rate steady even further, even though Democrats and Republicans in the House and in the Senate are both saying, dude, you need to lower the rates. He's got two people on the actual governing board that are saying, bro, we need to lower the rates. And Fed Powell's still choosing not to. We'll see. There's rumor that he might in July. Again, we'll see. I think we have to have an excuse to kick him out, but I don't know exactly how that plays out. We need to get the Fed out of our business completely. So how that plays out, we'll see. Maybe there's some ending of a contract that I'm unaware of or whatever, because my understanding is that contract ended back in Trump's first term, and I don't think they ever re-signed it. So maybe we just finally boot him out. Who knows how this is going to play out. I know Trump is going to do his best to do it with as minimal pain as possible, but often, like we're talking about here in California and gas prices, sometimes pain is what is necessary to get people to blah, 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 right and wake up. So Fed civil war, as even Democrats are pushing Powell to cut rates. Kind of already mentioned that. Stocks are down today. Again, why? S&P opens a fraction shy of record. Dow steady. NASDAQ edges higher amid the U.S. brokered ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Yet that's not really what's happening, right? NASDAQ's up a little bit, but Dow's down a bit. Gold is back up. It's heading back to the 33.50 range. It dipped down pretty hard today, but it's I knew it would head back up. Oil is also heading back up. It was going in the downward direction, but it was up as high as 72 or so, 75-ish, 76, something like that. So it did come down a bunch after Iran war ended. But again, this stuff is all arbitrary. None of this stuff makes any sense, folks. Just like the Fed. It doesn't make sense. There's voodoo and hoodoo going on with all of this stuff. So again, trusting this system to me is it's out of question. I don't trust it. I trust Trump to help us get through this as peacefully and painlessly as possible. I think he's going to do an admirable job. But at the same time, we're going to have to go through something, right? Like kind of Iran was a similar thing. We kind of had to go through this fear moment where, oh, we're going to go to war, and everybody's going to say this is going to destroy everything. It's going to destroy everything. The stock market's going to die. So something like that's probably going to happen. Stock market might take a hit, and then it's probably going to come back shortly thereafter. I don't like the craziness that's going on with it. I think being invested in the stock market right now is a little bit sketch. Precious metals right now are a solid way. If you've got some extra cash lying around, highly recommend you consider buying some silver. Silver is very underpriced. It's very affordable. It's kind of what's fun about it. You can end up with a number of coins or a number of pieces of silver and actually be like, dude, I got some silver. And it's like I told you guys the story with my girlfriend in the glass jar in her office, right? She'd put cash in there. Just every paycheck, she'd drop in, $40, $100, whatever she could afford. And after a number of weeks, she gets paid weekly. After a number of weeks, she sees a jar full of cash. And in her mind, she's rich. Same thing happens when you've got a bunch of precious metals sitting in your drawer, in your safe, shoved in a sock someplace, wherever you hide your stuff. You've got coins, you've got silver, you've got something. And you feel wealthier because of it. You feel like you put something aside and you're going to fare well. A lot of people that are sitting in stocks are kind of nervous, don't know. Get out of them. Get into a 401k. Get into a precious metals IRA. And you can still save money that way. Now, again, I do think having the precious metals in your hand is preferred. You kind of got to do this in steps if that's your ultimate goal. First off, you're in a 401k IRA. If you cash that out and then buy precious metals with it, you're going to get fined and taxed heavily. And then what's left, you can buy precious metals with. Really bad way to go about it. The way that I recommend it is you take what you've got in your 401k IRA and you transfer it over tax-free, penalty-free into precious metals IRA. They literally will take your money, they'll transfer it over, put it into like a mutual fund or whatever, put it into an account. They will purchase the precious metals with those physical metals. Then they put those precious metals into a trust. That is your precious metals IRA. Now, once you've got your precious metals IRA and everything's signed, everything's done, you've done it, you've gotten your free silver. They're going to give you up to 10% free silver. Probably got your free half-ounce collector's Ronald Reagan coin. It's 4 data points. Hit the button. Call within 20 minutes. You got all that already. You're probably even going to have your Trump book, Know Your Future, and you're going to have your gold and silver kit, as well as your precious metals IRA. Then at some point, you say, hey, I want to have those precious metals sent to me. They're going to be like, well, that's like cashing out. You understand that? And you'll be like, I do understand that. And they said, you're going to get fined and taxed, right? You understand that? Yep. There's going to be a bill involved or something, right? Explain that. Explain how it works. All right. Let's do it anyway. Or if you want, you can cash out some of it to pay the fine. Or you just, see what happens with the fine, right? Take your chances with the IRS. Don't recommend that, by the way. I'm not suggesting you do that. But that is a way you can get precious metals, and I think a larger quantity, and you get out of their system tax-free, penalty-free. Now, my friends at Goldco are not going to recommend what I just said. That's a bad idea from their standpoint. They're going to tell you most people only do up to 50% of their 401k or IRA diversify rather than a bunch of it or all of it. But that's what is also awesome about them. They're going to give you the best customer service. They're going to give you the best advice they know how, and they're not going to fill your head with a bunch of crazy shit like I do. They're going to tell you what's up and give you the opportunity to decide what's best for you. And that's where I think it's very powerful. If you go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com, check into what you can do, check into what you can get out of. You can get physical metals. Look into it. Ask them questions. Be like, and if I wanted to get the precious metals, say 6 months from now, what would that look like? Ask them those questions. Don't ask their opinion on whether that's a good idea. They're not allowed to give you that. They're not. That's illegal. I can because I'm not doing what they're doing. They're doing what they're doing. They can't give you opinions. They can only tell you what most customers have done, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Understand that. They're not going to tell you what to do. They're going to help you accomplish something that's got multiple steps involved. multiple pieces that need to be done and multiple I's and T's that need to be crossed and dotted and all that stuff. They'll take care of that and make sure that happens, and they'll give you the best customer service on this planet when it comes to this type of work. Go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get out of their system while you can, while you have wealth to get out. Hunter Biden's lawyers, they're chasing him down for unpaid legal fees. He wants to say he's never going to pay them, though it is pretty funny. Winston and Strawn LLP, they got 50 grand that he still owes them in legal fees, which really doesn't seem like that much money, frankly, in the big picture, considering how much trouble he was in, but meh. Major free speech victory. Federal court overturns Germany's ban on a right-wing magazine. Germany's trying to go full Nazi right now, and it seems to not be working. They're getting kicked back to the curb, thank God. There's a magazine called Compact Magazine. They literally said that they can't print anything because they took away their free speech. Apparently, the Supreme Court in Germany is not as bad as one would suspect. Kind of interesting. Why a little greenwashing law set off a political explosion in Brussels. Kind of another strange story, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, and though I probably won't spend enough on it to really make a lot of sense for it. There is some weird green laws that have been happening. They've got this new European People's Party, largest force in Europe. They've been kind of opposing a lot of this green crap. Well, 2 days before the commissioner said it was killing the Green Claims Directive, the EPP sent a letter to the commission saying it wanted the law dead. The commission seemed to capitulate without a fight, feeding a growing sense among the center-left bloc that the EPP is controlling not just Parliament, but also the commission. So then subsequent developments have cast doubt on whether the commission even really means to announce this type of stuff or if it was just an accident. We've got their frustration, I guess, tracks back to the early last year at the tail end of the Green Deal mandate. European Green Deal, a huge package of environmental reforms covering climate, biodiversity, pollution, agriculture, energy efficiency, recycling, and more, defined Ursula von der Leyen her first term as president of the commission. She launched it in late 2019 when Greta Thunberg was at the peak popularity and the climate crisis was considered the world's greatest existential threat. The Green Deal had support across ideological lines. But this looming European election, in which the populist right was projected to make big gains, prompted the EPP to cast itself as the party of farmers that would protect Europe's rural economy from environmental overreach. All said, this is trying to peel back a lot of the crazy carbon stuff, green stuff, all of this or extraordinarily expensive stuff. Right now, the entire world, because especially the United States is leading this, is trying to get out of this nonsense green deals. All the deep state people that were buying these countries, the carbon credits and all this is all deep state people that owned these companies. And so literally just ways to milk more money from the world's people to pay for non-existent threats and make us feel like we're making the world a better place when in reality, we're just making ourselves broke. So all of this stuff is kind of, like I said, flipping back. Like I said, I didn't do justice for the story, but ultimately they're trying to undo a lot of the pain that they've been doing. NATO leaders agree to the 5% hike in defense spending as Rutte warns no opt-outs or side deals. Even Canada's like, yeah, we totally agree. This is a great idea. Canada's not even at 2% yet. So they're one of the worst countries when it comes to the funding. I'm curious what this means. Hell, we're not even at 5%, frankly. I think we were a little over 3% or getting, something like that, 3.5%-ish, I think is where we were. I think we're the only country that was actually paying that. I showed that graph yesterday. I don't know where it's actually at right now, but there you go. So we'll see. I don't know what's up with NATO. NATO still says they want to bring in Ukraine. I'm pretty sure the United States is going to be like, hell no, Ukraine's not ever going to be part of NATO. That's what Russia said, and we're going to hold to that. So Ukraine will not be part of NATO. If you guys insist on making Ukraine part of NATO, we, the United States, most likely would bow out. Which, what are they going to do without our money? Our 5% is a much bigger deal than their 5%. That's for sure. Oregon Union tricked lawmakers in serious ethical breach, according to a complaint. Essentially, two union main people or whatever, like part of the top of the union or whatever, they got 1,000 pre-printed constituent postcards that were promoting a certain bill. But the reality is, is these people, the union, wasn't actually in favor of this. The two members of the union who were trying to work this deal and probably getting kickbacks or doing something, they created an illusion that a whole bunch of their constituents actually approved of this. It was a lie, which is fraud. And that tricked lawmakers. They're actually pretty pissed, and this is definitely an ethical breach. So we'll see if anything comes from it. Good that Oregon is finally starting to get a little smart. Senator Moreno is going to introduce resolution backing Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. I only put this in here. I've been ignoring it for a couple days, and I'm like, I better mention it because I did talk about the first individual to offer Trump, the Pakistanis, offered Trump a Nobel Prize. That was for ending the Pakistani Indian War. And I made a big deal about the fact that people were going to spin that into different directions because of Israel and all that stuff. This guy, Senator Moreno, is actually putting this bill out for the Nobel Prize for what Trump did regarding Iran and Israel. So now there is an attempt to give him a Nobel Peace Prize for that. So I didn't want people to be like, Dan, you said blah, blah, blah 4 days ago or whatever. Well, 4 days ago, I was 100% accurate. That was the only thing. Now there's 2 attempts to give him a Nobel Peace Prize. There you go. Finally, I don't know. I don't really watch The Simpsons anymore. I don't really watch much TV anymore, frankly. Though, I told you guys about the Blacklist, some ABC show that was forever ago. I don't know. I bought all the episodes or all the seasons so we could watch it. Me and the girlfriend have been into it. She just left for Philippines yesterday morning. No, this morning she left. Yesterday was my last day I got to see her. And so we've been watching the hell out of that thing. We watched 3 more episodes. Almost finished season 2. I'm digging it. Someone told me it gets kind of weird in season 7 or 8, somewhere around there. They said they got pissed off with it. I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. It was kind of like Lost was another one. I knew it was like the last episode sucked really bad, but I'd never seen it. So I bought it. Me and my girlfriend watched it earlier when we were, dating. And yeah, we got to that last episode, and God, it was horrible. It was so horrible. But I'm glad I watched it. And again, the first couple seasons were really good. Then it just started to get super strange. So again, if for any of you that have seen Lost, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a strange show. Whatever. The Simpsons, one of the longest running, I think the longest running show ever. Family Guy probably being very close. Season 36 finale, they kind of do a flash forward that they killed off Mom. They killed off Marge, which is kind of weird. And then, you read this whole article and they talk about how she's dead and all this and everyone's sad. And she talked about how Bart and Lisa need to be close and help each other always. And then at the very end, you find out that they actually agreed to sign on for more episodes. Yeah, The Simpsons for 4 more seasons in April. So the series is currently the longest running animated show on television. Longest running show, I think, period. Premiere date for The Simpsons season 37 has not been announced. So yeah, so I guess this isn't really the finale of The Simpsons. It's supposed to be the last season, they were saying, but apparently it's not. Looks like they've agreed to 4 more seasons. They're going to take it out to season 40, and no start for 37 yet. I don't know if they actually kill off Marge or not, which would make it hard to have continued episodes without Marge. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens to The Simpsons. Kind of a strange thing in the big picture. All said, a lot happening, folks, and things are happening quickly. We've got a lot of people that, are trying to ride the line as best they can, trying to be extraordinarily critical of Trump. Anytime Trump even hints that he's going to do something that could be construed as different than what he said when he was campaigning, even though I still have faith in Trump. Like, I didn't think we were going to have a never-ending war. I didn't think he was going to get us into an Iraq, and he didn't. I figure he's going to take care of stuff if he needs to. That's what I want. I want somebody that's not afraid to use the military if it needs to be done, but I want clear objectives that we know we can reach, right? And I want to make sure that we've got somebody that's not planning on just keeping us in wars forever to feed the military-industrial complex. And I will say, the weirdest part is, I think our future is going to resemble a lot more like a Star Trek future than anything else. So a lot of the defense industry companies are the companies that are going to help build the technology of the future, especially when it comes to craft and things along those lines. So to me, it still makes sense to make sure those companies are extraordinarily viable. And I think that's a big part of why it's happening in the big picture. I think Trump knows that also, But I don't think they're coming out with that information just yet. We'll see. We'll see how right or wrong I am, but I would assume 5 years down the road from now, we'll probably have a very, very, very different view of what our future is going to look like. And I suspect it's going to be much more similar to something akin to Star Trek than anything we've got currently right now. We'll see, guys. I'm going to hopefully hang with you the entire way, shoulder to shoulder. We're going to keep marching forward. We're going to get there, guys. I assure you, we'll get there. We'll get there in peace. We'll get there in one piece, and we'll get there peacefully. As peacefully as we can. Where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.